This meeting of the Community Development Board is called to order on October 3rd, 2023. Welcome, everyone. At this time, I would like you to please join me and stand in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This board consists of 7 members and 1 alternate who are appointed by the City Council and serve voluntarily. I am John Quattrocchi. I will ask the other members of the staff and the board to introduce themselves, beginning on my left.
Andy Park.
Lauren Matzke, Planning and Development.
Matt Middage, Assistant City Attorney.
Kurt Heinrichs.
Jay Daigneault, attorney for the board.
Bruce Rector.
At this time, I'd like to welcome our newest member to the board, Kurt Heinrich. Please remember to turn off your cell phones so that they do not become a distraction during the meeting. Please also refrain from having conversations in this room so that we might hear all the testimony given today. To ensure a complete record of this board's actions, we ask that each individual wishing to speak, including the applicant, speak into the microphone at the podium in front of us, clearly state your name, and spell your last name for the clerk. Now I'll ask all those in attendance today who plan to speak to please rise and be sworn in by the clerk.
Do you swear affirm to tell the truth throughout your entire testimony? Thank you.
Agendas of today's meeting are on the podium near the entry door. Also on this podium are a roster of the Community Development Board, the list of city staff experts, and their resumes, the board's rules of procedures, and the annual schedule of this board. Our first order of business is to review and approve the minutes from last month's meeting. May I have a motion of the minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We're talking about the July minutes, right?
We're talking about the last set of minutes that we had. That would be July. Okay. Yeah, 18th. Sorry. Yeah, it wasn't last month. That's right. We missed. At this time, there's an opportunity for citizens to be heard regarding items that are not on today's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to bring a matter before the board that's not on today's agenda?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. I'm William Johnson, 2694 Redford Court West, and it's been a while since we spoke about the purpose of this board. Clearwater has a unique development code that was comprehensively rewritten in 1998. Why was it rewritten? I let the author of the code summarize that purpose in the handout that I just gave you. I also have a flash drive here from the CDB training session in 2004 for the new board members. I see Mr. Hendricks, and I'll give you one of those. Mr. Boucikas isn't here that I see. Clearwater has a development code which allows project approvals at the staff level or at the Staff Development Review Committee. Those are what is called level 1 approvals. You don't see them. You only see level 2 project requests, which require special evaluation against the code's criteria for fitness. Has the developer presented substantial competent evidence that they meet the code section 3-914 on general acceptability? And that applies to every level 1 and level 2 project. You backstop staff recommendations. You make sure that redevelopment fits in. That's your job. You control the future of the city of Clearwater. If you have any questions about this responsibility, I suggest you request a training session on that responsibility. And thank you very much. I have a flash drive for Mr. Hendricks, and I don't believe I've given you one previously, so I'll do that now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? We'll now move on to the consent agenda. This board has adopted a consent agenda format, and the consent items are identified as such on the agenda. Consent agenda items are those items for which the Planning and Development Department recommends approval, the applicant is in agreement with any proposed conditions, and no written objections to the case have been received to date. Items may be removed from the consent agenda today by a member of the board, a member of the staff, or any person in the audience for questions or objections. I will read each item on the consent agenda, and if any person wishes to remove this item from the consent agenda, please so state or raise your hand, and we will remove it from the consent agenda. Items removed from the consent agenda will be heard in the regular order of the meeting. Items that remain on the consent agenda will be approved with a single vote. The first item on today's consent is item 1, case FLD 2023-04008 at 50 North Osceola Avenue, owner City of Clearwater. Applicant is D'Annunzio Group, LLC. Representative is Angela Robber, Hillward and Henderson. It's a 1.348 acres located at the west side of North Osceola Avenue, approximately 85 feet north of Cleveland Street. The Community Development Board is reviewing a proposed 158-unit overnight accommodation use and approximately 21,000 square feet commercial use in the downtown district and the downtown core character district for the property located at 50 North Osceola Avenue. The proposal includes a building height up to 157 feet for the hotel component and up to 53 feet for any other component, a minimum of 169 off-street parking spaces, requests allowable flexibility from setbacks, building spacing, facade design, and articulation standards, requests an allocation of 43 hotel units from the Public Amenities Incentive Pool. Associations are the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board, Water's Edge Condominium Association of Clearwater, Inc. Assigned planner is Gina L. Clayton, Planning and Development Director. Does anyone wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Item 2, case FLD 2021-12022A at 193 Brightwater. The owner is Labella Vista Ventures, LLC. Representative is Terry Skapik, Woods Consulting. Location, 0.513 acres, located on the south side of Brightwater Drive, approximately 1,500 feet east of Hamden Drive. The Community Development Board is reviewing a proposed amendment to an approved Level 2 flexible development application. Changes are limited to exact placement and a reduction in area of the previously approved 8-slip accessory use dock. Association is the Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board. Assigned planner is Mark Perry, Senior Planner. Does anyone wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Seeing none. Item 3, case FLD 2023-06012 at 1390 South Missouri Avenue. The owner is the Community Dental Clinic, Inc., Representative Catherine E. Cole from Hillward and Henderson. Location is 0.92 acres located on the northwest corner of South Missouri Avenue and Kingsley Street. The Community Development Board is reviewing an application for determination of status of a nonconformity for existing building in the commercial district and existing off-street parking lot in the low-medium density residential district for a proposed medical clinic for the property located at 139 South Missouri Avenue. The project includes a minimum of 35 off-street parking spaces, a building height of 20 feet, and requests allowable flexibility for structure setbacks, location, and landscaping. Associations, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board, Lake Bellevue Neighborhood Association. Signed planner is Melissa Hawk Baker, Senior Planner. Does anyone wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Seeing none. Item 4, case FLD 2023-04007 at 629 Mandalay Avenue. The owner is Clearwater JVV LLC. Representative Jason Sheridan, PE, from Pannoni Associates. Location, the South Point 405 acres of a .685 acre property located at the northeast and southeast corners of Mandalay Avenue and Royal Way. The CDB is reviewing an application for a proposed 3-unit resort attached dwelling use in the Tourist District and Old Florida Character District of Beach by Design for the property located at 629 Mandalay Avenue. The project is 48 feet in height, includes a minimum of 5 parking spaces, and requests allowable flexibility from setbacks and height requirements and the design standards of the Old Florida District of Beach by Design. Associations, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board, Clearwater Beach Association, signed planner Mark Perry, senior planner. Does anyone wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Seeing none. Item 5, case TA 2023-07002, amendments to the Community Development Code. Applicant, City of Clearwater Planning and Development Department. The Community Development Board is reviewing a request to rescind certain amendments that were adopted previously through ordinance number 9463-23, determined to be null and void ab initio pursuant to Senate Bill 250. Associations, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board. Assigned planner is Lauren Matsky, Planning and Development Assistant Director. Does anybody wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Seeing none. Item 6, case LUP 2023-06002, 210 Meadowlark Lane and an undressed parcel. Owner is First Baptist Church of Clearwater, Inc., Representative Brian J. Unks Jr., McFarland, Ferguson, and McMullen. Location, .54 acres, located on the west side of Meadowlark Lane, approximately 820 feet north of Gulf to Bay Boulevard. The CDB is reviewing a request to amend the future land use map designation from residential urban to institutional and is making a recommendation to City Council. Associations, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board. Assigned planner is Dylan Prinz. Does anybody wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Seeing none. Item 7, case REZ 2023-06001, 210 Meadowlark Lane and an unaddressed parcel. The owner is First Baptist Church of Clearwater, Inc., Representative Brian J. Unks Jr., McFarland, Ferguson, and McMullen. .54 acres located on the west side of Meadowlark Lane, approximately 820 feet north of Gulf to Bay Boulevard. The CDB is reviewing a request to amend the zoning atlas designation from R3, single-family residential, to institutional, and is making a recommendation to City Council. Associations, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board, assigned planner, Dylan Prinz. And does anybody wish to have this item removed from today's consent? Seeing none. We will have first order, if we can do on consent, items 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, because they're level 2 items, right? We need separate.
Correct. And you're going to take 2 votes on your level 3 applications because I believe Board Member Park has a conflict he'll announce.
Okay, so we need a first motion for items 1, 2, 3, and 4. Do I have a motion from the floor, from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve item 1, case FLD 2023-04008. Item 2 on the consent agenda, case FLD 2021-12022A. Item 3 on the consent agenda, case FLD 2023-06012. And item 4 on the consent agenda, case FLD 2023-04007. Based on the evidence in the record, including the application and the staff report, and hereby adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law stated in the staff reports with conditions of approval as listed.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We'll then go on to, do I have a motion for, it's a level 3, item number 5 by itself?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve. Are we voting on?
Just,
We're going to now be voting on your level 3 applications. My understanding is you have a conflict on 2 of those applications.
I do.
So let's announce that conflict now.
Okay.
And then you can make your motion, but you're going to want to make the motion on the application that remains that you do not have a conflict on. We'll move to the
Just
ones
the one.
that
Yeah.
you do.
Okay, so I'm going to conflict out on LUP 2023-06002 and REZ 2023-06001.
okay. So the first motion?
And additionally, I'd like to move to approve case number TA 2023-07002 on today's consent agenda based on evidence in the record, including the application and staff report, and hereby adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law stated in the staff report with conditions of approval as listed.
Clarify that motion. You'll be moving to recommend approval to the council
Yes.
as level 3. Right on.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I can now have a motion for items number 6 and 7.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend to the City Council approval of item number 6 on the consent agenda, case LUP 2023-06002, and item 7 on the consent agenda, case REZ 2023-06001, based on evidence in the record, including the application and the staff report, and hereby adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law stated in the staff reports with conditions of approval as listed.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will now move on to the regular agenda. There are 2 types of cases that could be heard today, the quasi-judicial and legislative. I will outline the procedures for each hearing at the beginning of the respective hearings. Our first is a Level 2 case. All Level 2 cases, such as flexible development, are considered quasi-judicial hearings. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the Community Development Board reviews the application, the staff report, correspondence, and all evidence presented today and makes a final decision subject to approval. The board previously qualified all the city staff who will testify as experts in their area of professional training, education, and experience. The list of city staff experts and their resumes are in the handbook on the podium near the entry door. Any other professionals who desire to be qualified as an expert witness shall so request at the beginning of the case and present a resume to each board member. The board shall determine whether or not to qualify the person as an expert and in what field of study. At the beginning of every Level 2 case, I will ask for anyone who wishes to request party status to come forward and state your reasons. Party status may be granted if the person requesting such status demonstrates that they are a substantially affected person. The board will then determine whether or not to grant party status. Then the case will proceed as follows. Presentation by the Planning and Development staff, 10 minutes. Presentation by the applicant, 10 minutes maximum. Presentation by persons with party status, 5 minutes. Cross-examination of witnesses by Planning and Development staff. Cross-examination of witnesses by applicant. Cross-examination of witnesses by persons with party status. Comments by the public, 3 minutes per person. Closing remarks by the Planning and Development staff, 3 minutes. Closing remarks by the persons granting party status, 3 minutes. Closing remarks by the applicant, 3 minutes. Closing of the public hearing, discussion, and vote by the board. Our first Level 2 case today.
Could you try again?
Sorry about that. Our first Level 2 application today, Item 1, Case FLD 2023-06013 at 25 Causeway Boulevard. The owner is City of Clearwater. Applicant Nicole Shaw, Moffett Nicole. Location is 13.53 acres of upland located at the southeast corner of South Gulfview Boulevard and Coronado Drive. The CDB is reviewing the redevelopment of the existing Clearwater Beach Marina facility as a 165-slip marina and marina facility commercial dock with a proposed dock area of no more than 64,000 square feet in the institutional district and Pier 60 character district of Beach by Design for the property generally located at 25 Causeway Boulevard. The project includes marina facility buildings with a height of 30 feet or less, a minimum of 321 off-street parking spaces, and requests allowable flexibility from landscape requirements for dock area, length, width, and setbacks as a comprehensive infill project, redevelopment project. Associations: Clearwater Beach Association, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board. The assigned planner is Mark Perry, Senior Planner. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to request party status on this case? Seeing none, we'll go on by presentation by Planning and Development staff. 10 minutes.
Mr. Chair, today I have 3 expert witnesses I would like to have sworn in. The first is Mr. Mark Perry, who I'd like sworn in as an expert witness in general planning, zoning, redevelopment planning, land development code and land development code amendments, special area plans and overlay districts, site plan review, landscape architecture, and all other matters he is about to testify hereon.
Move to accept Mr. Perry as an expert witness on the subject matters presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Next up, I would like to ask the board to swear in Mr. Michael McDonald as an expert witness in waterway management, aids to navigation, relationships between vessel navigation over water structures, and all other matters he may testify hereon.
Move to admit Mr. McDonald as an expert witness on the subject matters proposed.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And last, I would ask the board to accept Mr. Jeff Walker as an expert witness in engineering matters relating to Florida Building Code matters and all other matters he may testify hereon.
Move to accept Mr. Walker as an expert witness on the subject matters proposed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Mark Perry, Planning and Development. This project, hopefully, should move along any minute now. Ha-ha. I need a this end up. Thank you. This project constitutes the complete redevelopment of the Clearwater Beach Marina, which is a one-of-a-kind amenity on Clearwater Beach. This aerial is showing the existing marina facility outlined in red, the upland portion also owned by the city in blue, and city-owned submerged lands in yellow. The existing footprint of the marina and the marina facility had up until just recently been restrained by the presence of a federal channel to the south of the existing docks. A portion of the federal channel outlined in yellow was successfully deauthorized in December of 2022 via a congressional act supported by the city of Clearwater, which will now allow for the redevelopment of the docks. So there's a few things to keep in mind. The marina footprint will remain within city-owned submerged land zone preservation. The upland property is comprised of multiple parcels, all owned by the city of Clearwater, zoned tourist or institutional. The overall city-owned property is larger than the project area, which is comprised of the submerged lands and a portion of the uplands of the marina parking lot within the institutional zoning district. This plan shows both the existing docks in light gray and the proposed docks in white. The number of slips, 165, will remain the same, so the intensity of use will not change. The slips are being enlarged to modern standards. The existing marina was largely constructed in the 1940s with additional development in the 1960s and has primarily only had basic repair and maintenance ever since. The existing marina is generally in a C shape, and the marina dock extends for a majority of the shoreline along both the north and west. The existing marina is in need of substantial repair and replacement. Additionally, there are several elements of the marina facility that must be brought up to modern standards, including the slip sizes, utility infrastructure, the kiosks, and other buildings associated with the marina uses. The proposal is to completely remove and reconstruct the marina docks through a phased approach. Again, the proposed marina will have the same number of slips, 165, as currently exists. The proposed marina dock will generally follow the same footprint as exists, with two exceptions. The dock length will be about 140 feet greater, and that's to allow for larger modern slips. However, it's important to remember that the dock structures, of course, will remain completely within the boundary of the city-owned submerged lands. The dock will also have an east setback of 0 feet and a west setback of 20 feet. The overall length is 487 feet. The proposal has been reviewed against commercial dock and marina facility standards. The request is limited to flexibility for setbacks and length. The proposal maintains or increases existing setbacks and will ultimately bring an iconic and unique economic and tourist attraction up to modern standards. For the upland portion, the kiosks will be removed from over water, and new kiosks will be constructed located entirely over land. The kiosks along Coronado will be removed and replaced with new kiosks along the pedestrian promenade to the interior of the site. And this will result in several improvements. First, current building regulations prohibit the location of structures over water. And second, the current congested pedestrian experience along Coronado will be improved. Thirdly, the consolidated marina walk running east-west along the interior waterfront of the property will be created. Other improvements include an increase in the seawall height. Focal entry points with stairs and tiered benches and planters will be located along the seawall, and it will ultimately result in a cohesive marina walk with kiosks, shade structures, benches, and other amenities. The removal of 38 parking spaces is included in our staff analysis, and this is to accommodate the location and relocation of these kiosks. While it's long been established that beach parking is a perennial concern, it's important to note that the marina parking lot is and always has been intended to serve the marina facility and the uses within. It is not and never has been intended for general public beach parking. The existing uses of and within the property include the marina facility and supporting uses such as restaurant and retail plaza. Based on the specific uses, the project is required a minimum of 321 off-street parking spaces. And even with the reduction in parking, the project is proposing 328 off-street parking spaces, which meets code requirements. In conclusion, the existing marina was built in the 1940s with some upgrades in the 1960s. Any major reconstruction has been restrained by a federal channel recently deauthorized. Requests for flexibility are limited to length and setback. The intensity of use is the same at 165 slips. The project is located completely within city-owned submerged lands. The consolidation of the kiosks to the upland area will improve pedestrian congestion along Coronado. It will also create a marina walk with new decking, shade, seating, and kiosks. It maintains the amount of required parking, 321 spaces, with 328 spaces proposed. The key docks and kiosks will all be updated to modern standards. So the planning staff is recommending approval of the proposed redevelopment of the Clearwater Beach Marina. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them, and if I can, I would certainly defer to other city staff and the applicant.
Yeah, you mentioned the parking spaces. So you're eliminating 39, but you said the total is still within the city code?
I think 38, but yes,
38, okay.
right. The number of required spaces, and spaces are required based on the mix of restaurant, retail, because it's
Right.
the building itself, the marina building is classified as a retail plaza, which in our code is geared for a mix of uses, and there's parking requirements for retail plazas which specify that if you have more than 25% of restaurant, you start figuring out a different parking calculation for that component. The rest of it is done at, like, I think it's 4 spaces per 1,000 square foot. So there's a lot of math. That math was broken out.
Right, but those spaces right now, I think they're by permit, if I remember?
I think
38 right now that's there, aren't they? Just anybody can't park there, I think.
I'm
Isn't it just
not
the-
sure what
the commercial, because the commercial dock is there. Is that still going to remain?
The commercial dock?
Yeah, where you have all the commercial fishermen that come in and park right there? That's going to remain, right?
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah.
still stays commercial. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
they park right there,
the
too,
mix
don't they?
of the users is expected to stay the same.
Okay, but the parking is, so where does those permitted parking end up?
I would defer to the applicant.
The whole parking lot's permitted.
Hey, Mike, would you mind coming up to the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. The beach marina parking lot is all permitted, and it's permitted for anybody who's using anything at the marina, the commercial tenants, the restaurant, the
Right.
barber shop. So the whole parking lot's permitted.
So where does that, so you'll just move those spaces to where, I guess, down further somewhere, or?
The only people that have like parking spots is the staff, the city staff. They have assigned parking.
Okay.
The restaurant and anybody that works on the commercial vessels, they can park anywhere in that parking lot.
Okay.
They're usually just the first ones there in the morning. That's why they are always up front.
Will the docks have public access or not?
What do you mean by public access?
Well, right now, I think there's fences and gates and something like that on them, so you can't, you just can't walk on the dock.
No, so where the commercial fleet is, that sidewalk is going to remain open at all times. It's the recreational, the private tenants. There'll be a gate that separates that from the public side.
Okay. That's all I have, sorry. Anybody else? Yep. Mr. Hupp?
I have a question relative to the slips. So you have 165 slips, correct?
Right.
And how many of those will be converted to charter operations after you build the new docks compared to right now?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact mix of who's going to lease which slip. I would defer to the applicant on that one.
Jeff Walker. The slip mix is not changing. The number of commercial, what type of vessel will be using the slip is not changing. They are getting bigger now that we have more submerged land to work with.
So for instance, we have obviously dinner boats, recreational charter boats, number of occupants per boat. You're telling me that there's not going to be more occupants traveling on these boats requiring any more parking? Is that what you're saying?
Well, unless they change their boat, right? Otherwise, right now, it's the same fleet.
So you have a 120-seat dinner boat right now, I don't know how big that boat is seat-wise, they require so many parking spaces, correct?
The code doesn't calculate parking
Doesn't
based on
no,
that.
it doesn't calculate it that way. So it's 1.5 parking spaces per slip, correct? Isn't that what the code says?
Yeah, I'm told by my expert it's 2.
2?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I read 1.5 in the document.
We can check on that.
One space per 2 slips.
1 space per 2 slips, okay?
Correct. Yeah, and the code doesn't get into dictating parking based on vessel size or vessel capacity size. There's simply no direction whatsoever in the code for us to kind of put our finger on to do that. So we just follow the code requirements.
Kind of like having an outdoor patio at a restaurant. You guys don't count the seats out there, correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we don't count that towards the gross floor area for parking. I might suggest that, you know, some of these dinner cruises, they operate at different hours than like the day charter fishing cruises. So not all the users are operating at the same time, I would expect. So I would just throw that
Do you think that data is relevant?
Do I think what is relevant?
The number of occupants per boat and when they operate and how they occupy the parking spaces, do you think that kind of meshes with each other, or it doesn't?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I literally just kind of read the code and apply the code because that's kind of what I'm limited to doing.
Mr. Hupp, we actually just checked the code as 1 space per 2 slips.
So the dinner boat only needs 1 space, and the dinner boat next to it only needs 1 space of parking. That's the logic behind the city code.
Well, that's the letter of the city code. I won't speak to logic.
Okay. Is there logic behind it?
I wouldn't hazard a guess. I just read the code. I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, but
No, I know.
I'm kind of limited to what I
I'm
can
not
react
either.
to,
I'm just
yeah.
pointing out that there's a lot of other things that affect parking that you guys
Sure.
ignore. And I think it's extremely relevant because you have stacked restaurants and outdoor seating and demand for parking, yet you guys ignore it at every opportunity you can when it affects the whole beach. And I think that staff needs to really look at that and possibly put a restriction on these slips for more capacity in terms of just letting it go. You could have a cruise ship come in here. We don't know, do we?
I don't think we can accommodate a cruise ship, but I would defer.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you have one already in that dinner boat. You have a couple of them in there. I just think the code is lacking in regards to parking and how you guys calculate it.
Right. Well, we calculate it based on the code, so we just follow exactly what the code tells us to do.
Right. And I think the code needs to be addressed.
Fair enough.
Any other questions at this time? Thank you, Mark. Next, go on to the presentation by the applicant.
We're going to stand with the presentation that Mark gave.
Thank you.
But we are open to questions. Gladly will answer questions.
There is no cross-examination of witnesses. There are no witnesses. Do we have at this time, we'll open up comments to the public.
Can I ask
Yep,
two more
sure.
questions, if I
No,
may?
yeah.
Sure. Is there any stormwater requirements relative to this redevelopment?
Our plans for the uplands actually reduces impervious, so we just received an exemption from Swift Mud for a storm permit.
What about the city code relative to that?
They follow the Swift Mud regs,
I thought they had some more stringent requirements.
not in this case.
Does the city want to respond to that in any way?
Good afternoon, Ivan Dimitrov, City of Clearwater Engineering. Jeff is correct. We are following the SwiftMud code for the exemption of stormwater requirements for this project.
Is State Road 60, is that where you discharge to, or where does it discharge?
I believe it discharges over the seawall into the bay.
Just into the bay?
Yeah.
So there's no water quality
Correct.
efforts relative to that on this project?
Correct.
So you guys just avoided the water quality, okay. Did you include the bait house in your calculations, Mark?
I am actually not entirely sure on that one.
Okay. I didn't think you did, so bringing that to your attention.
Sure, thanks.
Go ahead.
During construction,
Just for a moment, my EOR nodded that our parking study by Kimley Horn Engineering did include the bait house, all the mercantile restaurants.
Okay, I didn't see that in the data, that's why I was asking. Thank you.
Mr. Harcourt?
yeah, during construction, how are you guys, is everybody moving out, or how's this work? Where they go?
I'm going to go back.
It's going to be a phase, Mike McDonald, it's going to be a phase project. All the commercial tenants are staying, but all the recreational tenants are going to find a new place, a new home during construction, and then they'll be the first ones to have a spot when we reopen.
You also mentioned raising the seawall. Does that continue all the way around, I guess, the corner down the Mandalay, is it? The street? Coronado, is that what they're called? Yeah. And then it just stops at the end of the project, right?
Please go to the microphone for any questions,
Sorry.
answers. Yeah, nodding head doesn't work, so we need a yes or.
All right. Yeah, I just was curious because and you raised it, you say raise it, how much did you end up going up? Yeah, because I mean, during the last storm, there was water.
Yeah, there's a city code now for if you replace a seawall, you have to raise it X number of inches. I think it's almost 1.5 feet.
Okay.
I have a question before you step away. How many slips are going to be available for public use, for day use?
Off the top of my head, I can't answer that. It's the same slip mix as it is now when it comes to the number of recreation, the number of commercial, and transient.
Available for, let's say, not somebody leasing the slip that wants to
Yeah, the
come to
transient
marina.
number is, yes.
You don't know that number?
If you give me a moment,
So the free day docking for the public is 8 spaces.
8 spaces, is that adequate?
It's what we have now, and it seems to be. I've seen it at some of the very busy points during the late spring, early summer. They get full. I don't see boats sitting out waiting on it, but
I've been there many times by boat since I live up the street, and it's been full.
has it been full for you?
So yeah, I think the public really needs a better consideration.
Okay.
Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move on to open for public discussion. Is there anybody in the public that would like to come up and have any questions or comments on this matter? Okay. Do we have any closing remarks from planning and development? Any closing remarks from persons or the applicant? Do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to make before
No
we
closing
close?
remarks.
Okay. We'll now close this and open for discussion by the board and vote. Is there any discussion from any board members on this? I'll start with it. I mean, I know this is a project that I think has been long overdue. I wish, as Mr. Hupp brought up, that there was some more public, out of all of it, I wish there was some more public boat slips available on a daily basis and that, but other than that, I know this is a very in-depth, thought-out project, so, but I'll just end right there if there's anybody else.
I agree this is a great project, and the only thing I'm trying to understand is you've kept the slips the same size, but you made them bigger, which really just says that they're going to be allowed bigger boats. I mean, could there not have been a way of keeping the slips more or less the same size, but adding to it? I mean, that's my comment. I mean, I don't understand, we're spending all this money, and we're not really gaining anything for the public. That's my comment.
If there's no other comments, do I have a motion from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve case number FLD 2023-06013 based on the evidence and testimony presented in the application, the staff report, and at today's hearing, and hereby adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law stated in the staff report with conditions of approval as listed.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think we need to get more clarity on that one there, so
Ms. Clerk, take a roll call vote, please.
all those in favor, we'll start over to our,
We'll have the clerk pull the
okay.
board.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 4-3.
So it's 4-3, the motion carries. Our next case. Our next case is a Level 3 application. All Level 3 cases, such as plan amendment, rezoning, and development agreement, are considered legislative hearings. The Community Development Board reviews the application, the staff report, correspondence, and all evidence presented today, and makes a recommendation to the City Council for Level 3 applicants, and the City Council makes the final decision. The procedure for all Level 3 cases are as follows. Presentation by planning staff, 10 minutes. Presentation by the applicant, 10 minutes. Comments by the public, 3 minutes per person. Closing remarks by the planning and development staff, 3 minutes. Closing remarks by the applicant, 3 minutes. Closing of the public hearing, discussion, and vote by the board. Our Level 3 case today is Item 1, Case CPA 2023-06001, amendments to the comprehensive plan. Applicant, City of Clearwater Planning and Development Department. The Community Development Board is reviewing a request to repeal the current Clearwater Comprehensive Plan and replace it with the Clearwater 2045, and making a recommendation to the City Council. Associations, Clearwater Neighborhoods Coalition, Board of County Commissioners, Pinellas County School Board. Assigned planner is Jamie Lopko, Long Range Planning Manager.
Good afternoon. Jamie Lopko, Planning and Development. We are very excited to be here today to present to you Clearwater 2045, the new city comprehensive plan. It's been a several-year process to get to this point, led by our long-range staff, but we've had a lot of help from other departments, and some of those are here today to help us answer any questions you may have. So we're here today to get your recommendation on this important document and send it up to City Council for their action. So since we've been before you before presenting some of the chapters, we wanted to make this a little bit shorter, but we will go over the comprehensive plan, its purpose, requirements, and our 6 core chapters, and then the next steps to getting it approved, and we'll open it for any questions. And I'll stop a couple of times during the presentation to give you an opportunity for questions as well. So a comprehensive plan is a long-range policy document, guides decisions on the future growth and sustainability of our city. The city has comprehensive plans that guide our growth and preservation long before the state mandated it. But beginning in 1986, the state enacted rules requiring municipal governments to have a comprehensive plan for the purpose of growth management. And over time, the laws and the vision of the city has changed, and so it signifies a need for us to amend our plan, and updates were made to our comprehensive plan. Major updates are typically occur every 7 to 10 years. The city's current plan was written in 2008, and there's been several minor amendments to it since that time. At this time, we're performing a complete rewrite of the plan. It includes reformatting of the entire document to make it more user-friendly. So Clearwater 2045 includes an executive summary, our main introduction, 6 chapters, and those chapters will contain goals, objectives, and policies. And goals are going to be our high-level statements of what we want to achieve. Objectives will set our directions to achieve that goal, and then our policies are steps to achieve the objective. So our current comprehensive plan was used as a guide. It's a starting point for us to develop this plan. So many of the goals, objectives, and policies were pulled over from the current plan, and some of them were updated to meet current needs. But there are many items that are brand new to this plan. And I wanted to highlight a couple things that have changed in the plan since you've seen it at your workshops. And that includes adding the executive summary and the main introduction to the beginning of the document. Some of the goals, objectives, and policies have been rearranged in the chapter to make sure that they read and flow correctly. Some of the policies have been moved to make sure they're under the correct objective. We have fewer, but a little bit better, more visually pleasing maps to ensure information is understood. And our maps have been moved around. They were typically all at the end of the chapter, and now we have put them as part of the chapter if there's a goal or objective that refers to them. We've created a new future land use category table that will make it easier for you to follow what the categories are, the permitted intensity and density in those categories. And we've created short introductions to each of the chapters to cover background data, our planning context, and how this chapter will use to guide the city in the future. And at the end of each of those chapters, excuse me, will be a list of the goals contained in that chapter. So we've added executive summary. That is just a quick snapshot of the 6 chapters. It'll have the color and the icon that is used throughout the document, so you know where you're at when you're in the document based on the color of the text or the icon that you see. And so all of the goals are listed on the executive summary, so it's just a quick snapshot for you. The main introduction is going to cover why we have a comprehensive plan, what the state requires us to have in that comprehensive plan. We've also included how the plan is organized, who would use the plan and how they would use it. There's also background data on population, race, household income, as well as a history of Clearwater and its development patterns. And then we finish out the introduction with the process of adopting the plan and our community engagement that was done through the process. So are there any questions before we get into the chapters? All right, we'll roll into the chapters. The Quality Places chapter serves as our future land use and housing element and provides guidance related to land use, development, redevelopment, housing affordability, neighborhoods, and economic development. The Quality Places chapters establishes our framework map, and that's going to delineate the city's neighborhoods, corridors, activity, mixed use, and neighborhood centers, as well as our employment districts. And there's a detailed description of these categories in the introduction to this chapter, and then goals QP 1 through 4 cover the categories of the framework map. The remaining goals in the Quality Places chapter will cover citywide topics like future land use, housing, arts and culture, and our causeways and view corridors. The chapter also introduces expanded goals with new objectives and policies to create a bonus density for a gray water system in the development. Equity and access to all city-owned properties and buildings, support for tree protection and a long-lived tree canopy, opportunities for increased housing opportunities through accessory dwelling units or missing middle housing, and additional arts and cultural opportunities. The mobility chapter is our transportation element. It provides guidance for the creation of a safe, efficient, equitable, and sustainable transportation system that serves the needs of all residents, businesses, and visitors. The goals of our mobility chapter cover the transportation system, opportunities for a multimodal travel, the safe, efficient operation of our Clearwater Air Park, and also the logistics involved in delivery of goods and services throughout the city. The mobility chapter will introduce guidance to cover the safe delivery of goods in the city and expanded goals and new objectives and policies to create equity in our city's transportation system, support Vision Zero, and address new emerging technologies and modes of transportation, and implement our Greenprint 2.0. Are there any questions on quality places or mobility? All right. We'll move into parks and public places. This is our recreation and open space element and provides guidance on the city's parks, recreation, and open spaces. The goals of the Parks and Public Places chapter covers ensuring that we have park facilities available throughout the city, preserving natural features and resources on park property, ensuring that parks and recreation impact fees are collected and expended to improve city parks in the system. And a new goal has been created for the equitable design and functioning of the city's park system. In addition, the city maintains a 10-year Parks and Recreation System master plan that was last updated in 2013. So the city is in the process of updating this master plan, and once that concludes, it's anticipated that this chapter will be completely updated to account for new data and findings. Conservation and Coastal Management chapter serves as our conservation and coastal management elements and provides guidance on the natural and built environment protection, improving air quality and sustainability and resiliency, post-disaster development, and education opportunities. So the goals of this chapter will cover conservation of our natural resources like beaches, dunes, protected species, and mangroves, improving stormwater runoff to protect water quality, protection of private development and public infrastructure in flood-prone areas, monitor and regulating post-disaster development to ensure we're not placing development at risk for future storm-related risks, providing additional education opportunities on storm risks, flooding, the natural environment. We have two new goals. One that builds on existing policies to research ways to address and improve air quality. And the other is related to sustainability and resiliency that's largely based on our Greenprint 2.0. Are there any questions on parks or conservation and coastal management? All right, support services is our public utilities element. It provides guidance for the provision and maintenance of the city's operational functions, including our public utilities and other services provided by the city. The goals of this chapter cover our public utilities like potable water, sanitary sewer, reclaimed water, and solid waste, as well as other services that are provided by the city. The chapter introduces guidance for our Clearwater gas system, law enforcement, emergency services, emergency management, general services, and the library system that were not previously in the plan. And we've provided additional guidance on our reclaimed water and solid waste collection and disposal services. Plan implementation chapter serves as intergovernmental coordination, property rights, and capital improvement elements. Provides guidance on our capital improvement program, our intergovernmental coordination on natural resources, housing, transportation, public utilities, and emergency management, and for private property rights. The goals of this chapter cover various topics relating to the city's intergovernmental coordination with other jurisdictions, agencies, and organizations, resolving conflict between the city and other organizations, the private property rights, annexation of property within the Clearwater planning area, and the city's 5-year capital improvement program, or CIP. Our next steps in the approval process for the Clearwater 2045, it will include a public hearing before City Council that is scheduled for October the 18th. There will be a second public hearing for adoption that's required, but it's not anticipated to occur until January 2024 at the earliest. After the first hearing of council, we have to send the full plan to the state for a 30-day required review period. And the staff will then need to address any comments that we receive from the state prior to bringing it back to the City Council for adoption. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions from the board?
How does this work into your Greenprint 2.0?
Greenprint 2.0 is a separate document that has its own action items in it, and it's a much larger document. We went through and picked some of the larger items or some of the things that are on the forefront of what we're looking at right now and put those into the comprehensive plan. Things like EV charging or solar, we wanted to make sure that those were in the comprehensive plan to reinforce those.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the board? Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll open comments by the public. If there's anybody that would like to come forward and have any comments on this. Seeing none. We'll close the meeting if there's any discussion by the board. If not, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval of this item based on findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the staff report.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's it. Thank you. Does the planning director have any acting planning?
I do not, thank you. Other than thank you very much for your flexibility and accommodating the special meeting after a few unforeseen circumstances. I know we've changed this meeting a few times, so really appreciate that we can have it. And then as a reminder, we didn't receive any additional or resubmittals for the regular meeting, so we won't see you until November.
Again, I'd like to welcome our new alternate member, Mr. Heinrichs. Wish you well on this. After that, this board is adjourned at 2 o'clock. Thank you.